Hello and welcome to the third episode of my Feminist Read series. Today we are going to be talking about the Feminist Leveled Up page of the Feminist Book Club Essential Reading Guide. And of course, if you want to hear me talk about the further reading section of this guide, that will be available on my Patreon. If you see me looking down at all in this video, it is because I have my notes here that I will be referencing throughout this video, but let's just get into it. At the top of this page, it asks, do you read feminist theory for fun, and are you looking for some more advanced reading? So there are four main books listed on this page, and that is Unapologetic, White Feminism, Emergent Strategy, and We Do This Till We Free Us. And of course, timestamps will be linked down in the description below if you want to jump around to any of these books throughout the video. So starting off with the first book on this page, we have Unapologetic, which is a Black, queer, and feminist mandate for radical movement. It's described as, and I quote, a manifesto from one of America's most influential activists which disrupts political, economic, and social norms. So if you are part of activist groups or you work with activist groups, then this book would probably be perfect for you. However, if you're like me and you're sort of new to it and you are trying to read to learn about it, this book might not be the best. It focuses very heavily on activist organizations and the structure of it and how to run them, and it's about the author's personal experience being in activist groups. So if that is not your scene or you're still learning about it and want to join, then it might not be exactly what you're looking for going into this book. I do think this book is very informative. However, I do think it could be structured a little better. It's told in this non-linear timeline, so we are jumping back and forth from different points in time, and I feel like if it was structured more linearly, it would have made more sense. At least to me, I feel like if you are going to talk about years as a way to categorize the timeline of events, then it should naturally be in order so you can get the progression. However, this book is told where we're jumping all over the place, and I feel like it kind of gets a little disorganized. At least that's how I felt while reading it, so I feel like if it was structured a bit better, it might have read a bit better. I do also have one big problem with this book, and that is a section of this book where the author is talking about an organization that she, I believe, used to be a part of. And in this organization, one of the people in a leadership role was a man who was accused of SA. And in this book, instead of condemning his actions, she does say that it was a bit of a disappointment, but she doesn't make that big of a deal about it. Instead, she focuses a lot of time talking about his contributions to this organization. And I just feel like if you are writing a book all about feminism, all about Black, queer, and feminist liberation and movement, then maybe centering a large chunk of, I believe this chapter, a large chunk of it was all about this one guy and how he was accused of this, but she is more praising his accomplishments. And I was just very uncomfortable, and that did sort of taint my experience reading the rest of this book. So yeah, that is one very big issue that I had with this book, and I was just sort of taken aback that it would even be included. I understand how difficult it can be a part of an organization that you are proud of that has someone in charge who turns out to be a bad person. However, I feel like when you are centering a book around women, then there should be more care taken to present it as a bad thing and how you are helping the people affected by this man in leadership. And I just don't think it was done with enough care or sensitivity. And yeah, that did ruin my reading experience of this book quite a bit. So yeah, I think this book could have been really great. I think it will work for a lot of other people, but I do think that there are some things that could have been improved upon, and it just wasn't one that necessarily worked fully for me. Now we are going to move on to white feminism, and this is described as addressing today's conversation about race, empowerment, and inclusion in America, an examination of the history of feminism from the true mission of the suffragettes to the rise of corporate feminism. So I personally thought this book was really great. I listened to the audiobook and I really enjoyed that experience of listening to it, and I think this one was very informative. I specifically enjoyed the commentary around this author and them describing their past experiences. I found that really enjoyable to listen to. And honestly, I don't have too much to say about this one. I feel like this was a very solid book, and I gave it 4 stars. I think this is one that I would definitely recommend if you want to read more feminist literature. This is a great one to give a try, and I feel like it has a lot of important points to talk about when it comes to what white feminism is, how to not get sucked into the white feminist trap, and yeah, I just think this was a very solid read. Alright, now on to Emergent Strategy. This is said to be inspired by Octavia Butler's exploration of our human relationship to change, and I will just say that I had read this book a long time ago, and I do not remember a lot about it. It is a very forgetful book in my opinion, and that might just be because I really disliked my reading experience of it. I feel really weird about this one because on Goodreads, this book has over a 4-star rating on Goodreads. However, I found this one very hard to read, very hard to get through. I found that the author didn't add a lot to the book itself. It's mainly made up of quotes from other people, and I feel like there's a lot of definitions in this book that the author gives, and some of them are very simple definitions, and the way they were defined made it seem like the author was talking down to the reader, and I personally don't like that. I found this just to be an odd reading experience all around. This book definitely needed an editor, and I just don't understand what people enjoy about this book. I don't really think the author themselves had a clear vision for this book. I just feel like a lot of this book just barely made sense, and it was a bit of a slog to get through. Lastly, we have We Do This Till We Free Us, which is the most recent one on this list that I have read, and as the description says, it's a reflection on the deep work of abolition and the transformative political struggle. I thought this book was great. I really enjoyed reading it. It is told as a collection of essays and interviews that the author either wrote or took part in, and as with all collections, there are some that are stronger than others, but as a whole, I felt like this was a very solid collection. It all focuses on abolition, and that is one of the topics that, since I have started this whole project, abolition is one of the topics I wanted to learn the most about. It's one that I feel like I have seen and heard since 2020, but have not exactly delved into or really read anything that specifically deals with it. So since starting this project and hearing some of the other books sort of very lightly touch on the subject, it is definitely one that I wanted to explore more. And this book definitely gave me that, which I am very grateful for. This is one that I would definitely read again. I would really like a physical copy of this book so that I can read it again, annotate it, highlight, and I would also love for this to be a book club pick because I would love a lot of these topics to really be discussed and picked apart in a group setting. I just feel like that would be really fun. And yeah, I do want to reread this book sometime in the future. And yeah, it was just a really good one. Overall, this was a great book and one that has definitely even piqued my interest more on the topic of abolition. And I know there are some other books on this guide that I will be reading in the future that talk about this topic, which makes me even more excited to get to them. But yeah, overall, I would really recommend this book, and I hope more people end up picking it up. But those are the 4 books that are mentioned on this page. Again, if you want to hear me talk about any of the books on the further reading section of this page, you can go ahead and check out my Patreon. There will be a whole dedicated video there for those books. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment whatever you feel like commenting, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!